On today's episode of the Yaesu The Radio Show podcast, we're going to talk about some different features and things about our handheld radios that we got a lot of questions about actually during the Huntsville Hamfest. That's going to be for today, Friday, August 22nd, on the Yaesu The Radio Show podcast. And welcome, everybody, to the Yaesu The Radio Show podcast. I'm your host, John Crook. Thank you for tuning into today's podcast. We are back from Huntsville, and it was a great show. It was we were so glad, so happy to see so many of the people that always come out to the show and saying, John, hey, how's it going? Haven't done it. I've heard, my understanding is Huntsville Hamfest has been called the most friendliest hamfest around, and I do have to agree. It was a great event. Thank you to the people that put on the Huntsville Hamfest for allowing Yaesu to come there, as well as allowing us to do a presentation. It was actually kind of great because what we were able to do in our presentation, we were able to kind of discuss some of our great new products coming out, and we were actually able to sample some people for what they want. So that kind of was the great part. They didn't even know. We kind of said, hey, we have a couple of questions for you as the audience. Now here's our chance to give us good feedback or bad feedback or whatever kind of feedback on there. And a lot of people were happy that they were. It was kind of a surprise. So, yeah, kind of a cool thing for just coming in and seeing a Yaesu presentation on there. But back to the drawing board, back to the studios. I kind of joke around here. And today we are going to talk about some questions that came up about our handhelds. And we offer a wide variety of handhelds currently on the market right now. Well, out of all the amateur manufacturers, pretty much the most on there. And people are like, why does this have this? What does this have this? Let's talk about some of these things, John. And a couple of people said, that'd be a great thing for your next podcast, coming right off a show. I know you got some specials going on, so let's talk about that, John. I said, you know what? Let's do that today. So before we dive into today's show, I want to take a moment and talk about the Yaesu.com website. Yes, that's right, the Yaesu.com website. Head on over, check it out, www.yaesu.com. That's going to be the place that has all the information that you need or may want about great Yaesu radio products. Right, Yaesu.com. You can click on amateur radio, you can click on aviation radio, you can click on marine radio. Our 70th anniversary is right around the corner on there. And based on what you need, with that redesign, it actually is designed a little bit better. I know some people are saying, why'd you do this and this and this? No, now we gathered it for you. Click on that amateur radio picture on there. That will take you to the amateur radio section. And then you can select by what you need. Whether you need HF transceivers, whether you need VHF, UHF mobiles, VHF, UHF handhelds, or our new section on there, legacy products, where you can click in there and that will take you to a whole list of our different Yaesu products that are considered our legacy, the ones that are no longer in production, and you can select from there the different materials that we may have available for there. Some people may come and say, hey, John, I need a manual for an FT857, or do you have any stuff like this for this or this or this? Head on over to that website, and you can easily see what we may or may not have available for all of your needs. All right, I'm going to tell you this. Handhelds are a pretty amazing thing. It is obviously by far the number one thing that people get when they join this hobby, this passion, this love, whatever you want to put the words to it on there. People are like, what should I get? Should I get a mobile or should I get a handheld? And ultimately, everybody always does say handheld. Why does everybody always say handheld? Because it's easy, right? It's all self-contained. With the mobile, you need a power supply. You can't necessarily just strap a mobile onto your belt line and go walking. I know some people have. We've all been to Hamvention, right? But in this case, people are like, what should I get? What should I do? This kind of thing. Handhelds are the thing. And that's why we have such a wide variety of handhelds for Yaesu. We have currently the FT5D and the FT70D. Those are our Fusion line of radios. Remember, Fusion C4FM FDMA, high quality, professional grade digital voice technology. You're not going to find that with any of the other ones using technology from like the early 90s on there. No, high quality stuff used by our fearless public safety workers that are out there helping the people in this day and age on there. Then You're saying, hey, I don't need I don't need a digital handheld, John. I'm good old analog meat and potatoes. Cool. We have the VX6R, which is a dual band handheld, but it also does have 220 at 1.5 watts. So a watt and a half of 220, which a lot of people do or don't know about, but that's what the VX6 has on there. We have the tried and true FT60. Yes, that thing's been around for like 20 years because so many people love that radio because it's there, it's available. It's a metal housing radio, and I can't stress this enough, and people were actually surprised when I told them this statistic, I guess we'll call it on there. Did you know that with that handheld, been running 20 years, it is one of the most requested handhelds that actually come from the Yaesu line for non-digital, that is. And this is the really cool part, the number one accessory for that is the AA battery pack, because that is the only radio that we have there. When you use the AA battery pack, you are getting full 5 watts of power. That's right. Normally with a battery pack, you're not getting the full 5 watts. You can, right? It's not enough. But most battery packs are like 2 or 3 AA's. No, this is going to take the full set of AA's on there. It's not just 2 or 3. It's like 5 on there, I think, or maybe 6 if actually correct now I think about it. But you put all those AA's in there, you're getting 5 watts, and that is what a lot of people love. A lot of those outdoor people, a lot of the preppers, a lot of the those kind of things. I need something that I can't recharge a battery. What can I do? And, batteries are abundantly available. I mean, Christmas time, batteries not included, right? So batteries are abundant. People love that. And then we have more of our MCOM entry-level go-bag type radios, which is going to be the FT65R and the FT4X. With that being said, 6 different handhelds, all are a little unique on there. We're not going to dive into the features of each radio, but we're going to do that 10,000 foot view, as I like to say, of things about those radios which are important. And I have kind of a little bit of a list here, you can't see off screen here, but of questions that came in, and we've always known these kind of questions on there, like what is this, what kind of antenna does this take, that kind of thing like that on there. So we figured, you know what, let's once again, let's do it today. So first and foremost, I think this is probably the biggest question we get, is antennas, antenna connectors, more in particular. What is the antenna connector on a radio? What is this and this and this? What do you have now? What is the connector in general versus what type of connector it is? So first of all of our current production handhelds utilize an SMA connector. So that's the tiny little SMA connector on there. Very popular. It's very small, compact, does a very good job on there. But with SMAs, just like any other type of connector, there is a male connector and a female connector, right? So with that being said, we have actually both on the different makes and models of radios. So if you are using the FT5, the FT70, the VX6, or the FT60, you have what they call the SMA female connector on that radio. That is the connector without the center pin. It receives the center pin, but it doesn't have the center pin in it. Now, on the FT65 and the FT4X, so FT65, FT4X, we have the SMA male connector. That's the little pin, and we're talking about on the radio itself. We're not talking about the antenna itself. So in other words, if you want to use a different antenna than what comes with Yaesu, or have an adapter that you want to connect to, so let's say a bigger antenna, outside antenna, or backup antenna, whatever, for the FT5, the FT70, the VX6R, or I should say the VX6, and then the FT60, you're going to want a male, SMA male on the antenna or that antenna adapter. Okay. Now let's switch over to the FT65, the FT4X. If you want to have an adapter or anything on there, you're going to need an SMA female. So adapter for the FT65 and the FT4X are going to be SMA female, where all the other Yaesu handhelds at the time of this recording are going to be SMA male on the antenna or the antenna adapter. So that's the biggest thing. Now, a lot of people will go say, why did you change that? Why was it different on the FT65 and the FT4X? Well, the reason that it is due to the fact of public safety radios, like commercial grade radios of other brands and stuff like that. Yaesu doesn't make commercial radios, right? We used to, we don't no more. We're amateur marine and aviation. But it wasn't uncommon for public safety radios to have the SMA connector of the male on the radio, and the antenna need to be SMA female. So when we were looking at the FT65 and the FT4X, part of the whole purpose of those radios was to be able to use your public safety grade antennas, be able to switch the antennas that you wanted to kind of quickly and easily. That is why we have those antennas the way that they are for the connectors on there. So that kind of covers the antenna connectors. Now, let's move into probably the next biggest thing on there is charging, the chargers for the batteries. Why is this one this way? Why is this one this way? That kind of thing like that on there. So all Yaesu radios are going to come with a charger, right? Depending on the make of the model, you may have a desktop charger, or you may have a charger that plugs into the radio on the side, or somehow connects to the radio with like a cord or something maybe. Regardless of what it is, whether it be a cradle, whether it be a kind of a connector on the side of it, those are going to be your standard charging cables. They're not going to be rapid charging cables. A lot of people say, like, oh, well, rapid charger, how long does it take, that kind of thing. On some of the radios, it will actually show a charging display on there to let you know. So like the FT5 or the FT70, those are going to show you that it will say charging on there. Other radios may not show it on there, but it might have like a cradle or something that the light will go from red to green, something to signify, hey, charging is completed. But you got to understand which one does what. And I say that because we'll talk about the FT5, the FT70, and the VX6. Let's talk about those three right now that are in production. Those radios use a standard wall wart charger that you plug into the side of the radio. Charge overnight. It's about an 8-hour charger. You can purchase a charging cradle for these radios. And what that means is basically a cradle sits on the top of your desk. You plug in that same wall wart on there that comes with the radio, that normally charge radio. You plug that into the cradle, and then you put the radio into the charging cradle. Now, with the charging cradle, that usually offers one or two things. It usually offers a faster charger, or allows you to charge the battery without it being connected to the radio. So let's say, for example, you have an FT5 and you want to have an additional battery that you'd like to keep charged. Well, you can buy that cradle, and then that will charge the battery without it being connected to the radio. Now, going to the FT60, this is a little bit of a different one. The FT60 used to be able to be charged. The first generation of, like, let's say the radios used to be able to be charged by simply plugging in the power supply or the wall wart to it, whatever term you want to call it, to the side of the radio. That has changed. That is no longer that way. Current productions come with the rapid, well, it's not really rapid, but it's a little bit faster than charging it on side, desktop charger for the FT60. So you have to charge it on that cradle. You can't plug it into the side of the radio. So that's the difference between the FT60. So some people say, well, I have an FT60 from like 10 years ago. I can charge it by plugging it into the side, but my new one I just got, I can't do that. Why is it, John? Is something broken? Do I need to send a radio in for repair? No, not at all. What it basically means is that it has to charge on the cradle. But I'll get to those jacks in a minute on there. Finally, the FT65 and the FT4X do not have an external DC jack, so therefore you cannot charge the without the cradle. It comes with the cradle because the radio has to set in the cradle to charge. It doesn't have any sort of external DC jacks or anything like that whatsoever on there. So keep that in the back of your mind when you're taking a look at the different ways to charge radios. Now, with the 65, with the FT4X, They come with the cradle, so if you have to charge an extra battery, you can use it on the cradle alone on there. So, once again, food for thought. And we bring that up because the cradles are different for the different models, okay? And therefore, you have it in that design where, you know, you may have to think about, like, how am I going to charge batteries, how I'm going to charge it. You know, if I'm going to take the FT65 and the FT4 and I want it to be a Go radio, you know, maybe I need some extra batteries, how am I going to charge those extra batteries, those kind of things like that on there. Now, people have questions. You know, we are talking about handheld real quick. So I think I would be remiss if I didn't go ahead and talk about, real quick, before we get into the second part, about the great Yaesu radio specials going on right now. Yeah, the Yaesu Field Gear promotion started back on August 1st, going all the way through September 30th. And we talked about handhelds. This month, get $40 off on the FT5D, $20 off on the FT70D, $30 off on the VX6. The VX6 has been out there for years also too, and now we're giving you $30 off. Or that tried and true, I just talked about it, FT60, $20 off. That's in addition to some great discounts and specials also on the FT710, the 510, and the FTM 150 and the FT 3185. Now, what are these? These are instant coupons from us, from Yaesu. You don't need to do a mail-in rebate. You don't need to do nothing. Head on over to your favorite authorized, there it is again, authorized Yaesu dealer, and then when you are at purchase that radio at the time of purchase, they are, boom, taking that discount off of the radio at the time of purchase. You get your money, you save your money right now. No need to buy the radio, take the receipt, mail it in here. No. Instant coupons are available through dealers in the United States and Canada. Can't stress that enough. North America, United States, and Canada offer apply to these great deals. Want more information on there or to get a listing on there? Head on over to our Yaesu.com website and you can find the details on the great specials there. Continuing, we're going to talk about that DC jack now. That DC jack on the FT5, the FT70, and the VX6, charge it. But on the FT5, on the FT70, on the VX6, and the FT60, you can power that radio and bypass the battery. So if you have such as a device like our SDD13, which is our cigarette lighter plug, or our EDC6, which is a cable that would plug into the jack and then connect to a 12-volt power source, when using that external jack with only those two accessories, the SDD13 or the EDC6, that will provide enough power to power the radio and use it without the battery. Or power the radio and charge the battery. Now I stress or because it can only be done with those two radios. If you are using the wall wart that comes with the radio, it does not supply enough energy, electricity, whatever term you want to use, voltage, everything on there, to power the radio for transmitted abilities, nor does it provide enough to charge and power the radio. So realistically, that wall wart that came with it, that power source in the box, use it to charge the radio when the radio's turned off and the battery's connected, or to power the cradle that charges the radio. If you want to use the radio external source, take off that battery completely on the FT5, the FT70, the VX6, and the FT60. You're going to need that SDD13 and the EDC6. Of course, as I stated earlier, there's no DC jack on the FT65 and the FT4X, so nope, you're not going to need to worry about that whatsoever. And there's not a battery eliminator. People ask, like, is there a battery eliminator, something I could put in place of the battery and do that? No, we do not sell or make any sort of battery eliminators. If it was possible, if we could have it done correctly, then we would, but we don't because it's just not going to go ahead and work properly the way that it is. Now, last thing we're going to talk about is helping understand nomenclature on dual band, dual display. So I have a lot of people that will come in and they'll look at the FT60, the FT70, the VX6, the FT4X, and to a degree the FT65 and saying, okay, John, these are only single band radios because I only see one display. No, they're dual band. but I don't see them. You're calling them dual band, but I only see one frequency or one memory. Correct, because they're not dual display. So dual band means transmission and reception of two different bands. Doesn't necessarily mean all at once, but it just means that it has to operate. Our radios in this case, once again for North America, version R, okay, is going to be 144 to 148 and 430 to 450. Those are the two bands that it transmits on. Receive is a little bit wider. So it'll receive public safety and GMRS, all that stuff. But with those radios like that, they dual band. They could transmit and receive on two different bands. Display, completely different beast. A display could show only one frequency or one memory channel at a time, or maybe might show two of them. So take a look at the FT5. The FT5, you can either have it as a single display frequency, meaning it only has one memory channel in use, like the A side or the B side, or you can have it show the A and the B side at the same time. That is dual band, dual display. The FT70 in this case is dual band, so it's VHF and UHF, but it's single display. The VX6, technically tri-band, VHF, UHF 5 watts, 220, 1.5 watts, but that is a tri-band, but single display. The FT60, once again, dual band, single display. FT4X, dual band, single display. And the FT65, it's both. FT65 comes set up to be dual band and a single display, but by going into the setup menu, not the normal push and hold, but by going ahead into the deep setup menu, you can go, and it tells you how to do this in the manual, you can actually turn on dual display. So you'll see VFO-A and VFO-B on there. So that's the big difference between dual band and dual display. Sometimes people think that, hey, it's dual band, I should be able to see both at the same time. No, it just simply means it's dual band, meaning VHF and UHF, but also dual display can show two frequencies at one time. If it's a dual band mono display, it could do VHF and UHF, but only show one frequency or one VFO at that time. Now, the final thing we're going to talk about is this association. Now, a lot of people think a dual band radio is also dual receive, or better term, what people think is full duplex. Now, there's a difference between dual receive and full duplex. So dual receive is like the FT5, where you can have two frequencies active, the A side and the B side, and if they're both receiving a conversation, they will both go ahead and produce the audio for that conversation, because there's two VFOs in there. Or even if it's a memory and a VFO, or a memory and memory, whatever, it has the ability to have two receivers in there, so you can receive two conversations at the same time. That is what we call dual receive. Full duplex now means that you can transmit on one band, and the opposite band allows you to receive at the same time you're transmitting. Now, people who are into satellites, you're gonna understand this hands down. Meaning you can transmit up on VHF and receive on UHF, or transmit on UHF and receive VHF at the same time. So, hey, I'm talking on VHF and a UHF conversation comes in on there, I would hear that UHF conversation at the same time if it's full duplex. Now, the FTM 510, or the 500 series in general, so the 500 and 510, the 300, and then the 150, and soon to be released the 310, those are dual band, dual display, full duplex radios. But those are mobiles. We're not going to talk about mobiles in this episode. We're talking about here portables. But just because it could receive two conversations at the same time does not mean that it's full duplex, where it allows you to transmit and receive at the same time on two different bands. So why do we bring up all this? Well, because those are some of the things that people get caught up on, not understanding, which is this nomenclature and the feature of the radios and what it can and can't do for accessories on there. What is the ultimate way that I can figure this out, John, and stuff? Well, I know I talk a lot about it, but go to that Yaesu.com website, click on amateur, click on VHF, UHF handhelds, take a look at all the different handhelds that are on there. select that handheld you want. Once you select that handheld on there, you can then go ahead and see the little button that says Files on there. Click on Files, and then you could download what we call the catalog, and that is the brochure, in essence, of other terms on there. It's going to allow you to take a look at it. It's going to mention what the antenna type connector is on the radio and how many ohms and that kind of operation that it is. It also is going to go ahead, I mean, it's just, the brochure is going to tell you everything that you need to know about it on there. And once again, that will help hopefully clear up some of these things on there. Because once again, we hear this all the time. People, oh, it's not dual band, there's only one frequency displayed, or I can't charge my radio, I can't do this, and that kind of thing. No, that's not the case at all. Get that brochure, head on over, and then better yet, right in that same page of the files for the brochure, you can also get the manual. And the manual is going to go more in depth on it for you. Well, thank you for tuning in to today's show. Like I said, we get these questions when we do these kind of question episodes every once in a while, when a lot of people have questions, or we start to see the same thing on there. And a lot of people are actually going out and looking, hey, I need a handheld, or maybe I need a backup one. And with the great sales and specials, people are doing this, and then they're kind of scratching their head like, John, what does all this mean? Well, we hope that this kind of clarified it for you a little bit on there. Stay tuned, though, to our podcast. We do like to go ahead and release them on Fridays here, as this recording of this one is Friday, August 22nd. Check out our Yaesu.com website, as we talked about. Check out our systemfusion.yaesu.com website, which actually has the posting link for the current Yaesu DR2X promotion program. Yes, it just got renewed. It is back, folks, so good to have it on there if you're looking for a repeater, whether it be for your club, whether it be for usage, or hey, even better yet, the repeater operates in VHF and UHF in half duplex mode, meaning, in crossband mode, so you can go in on VHF and come out on UHF, put up your own crossband repeater. Lots of different things to do on there, lots of different options on there. But thank you for listening. Thank you for being a Yaesu customer. And as I always say, we're going to catch you on down the log.